that's actually a really great message, because I actually saw something on Instagram earlier today where it was like they had an AI that would see so say I take a picture outside like on Biscayne Boulevard, and they upload that picture into this software, and then it finds like open camera, like public cameras. They like find where you were when you took that picture. Like, it's kind of scary.
Well, they can. I've been in situations where people are under oath testifying that they don't do X, Y, or Z, but on social media, they're doing it. Sometimes with little to no clothes on.
Yo.
So I find that kind of interesting.
Very interesting.
Depending upon what they're saying they're not doing.
Wow.
So it's just whatever.
Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get started officially. My friends, welcome back to the Smoky Mirror Podcast. I am your host, Smoke, from the Scut team. And as you know, the purpose of the Smoky Mirror Podcast is to bring on guests who can either educate or inspire. And today I have Reginald Hicks, Esquire, correct?
Yes, thank you.
He is a lawyer. I met him through my mentor at the Cigar Bar, which I've come to love the Cigar Bar because I meet a lot of very interesting people.
I come there to save souls also.
He was there to save souls too. He dropped he was dropping the craziest stories and a lot of wisdom. So I was like, yo, you got to come on the podcast. And he said he would even be a recurring guest. So we might have to explore that as well, because Lord knows we can always use some legal advice. Mr. Hicks, thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So you wanted to lead with social media, and I kind of want to get in your background first, but let's talk about social media because I think it is important, and I think it'll set the tone for the rest of the conversation.
Well, let's do a little background first. My name is
Perfect.
Reggie Hicks. I own my own law firm. I'm also certified in civil and family law mediation.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do a lot of arbitrations.
Okay.
I've been practicing more than 20 years. My birthday's this week, so I'm a little sensitive. But anyway, I'm thankful just to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And one of the things we were talking about is there's such a gap between now, my generation, and younger people.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was your age, I had a lot of people who took care of me, who pulled me to the side, who gave me encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a little different. It's hard for people to even say hello.
Mm.
I could be in the elevator next to someone, they won't say anything. But anyway, let's get into that. You talk social media. I was telling you I have a lot of younger friends and peers and colleagues as well as clients who I really try to stress upon them the problems with social media, because for me, privacy is one of our last rights that we're losing. It's like I'm not a fan of anything Real House. We tell too much of our business. The old people used to say, keep your drawers clean, and don't embarrass yourself and your family.
Right.
And unfortunately, we put way too much on social media. And now with the footprints that are out there, once you put it up, it's hard to take it down. So I strongly encourage everybody, be careful what you post.
Have you had anything recently come up that's really been like top of mind to really drive this point home?
It happens a lot. So when people apply for certain clearances, certain things where privacy is an issue, or positions that are somewhat important now versus when it was 5 years ago when you posted some of this stuff.
Right.
I know a lot of investigators, the first thing they look at is the social media footprints, and they get everything. And heaven forbid if you're called in for anything related to conduct and they put you under oath, they give you an opportunity to lie, and then they present your social media. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened.
Ooh.
Personally and professionally. Also, if someone tries to find out about you, they go through your contacts with your friends, who you talk to, the type of emails that you send, the type of language that you use, and they use it when they get you under oath, and especially if you lie about something.
So they can even take the way you're communicating to your friends offline, like just text messages, and use that against you?
Yes. People have biases.
Yeah.
So they try to figure out who you are, how you are. And they spend a lot of time and energy trying to figure it out if it means money to them. So again, if you, for example, are in an auto accident and you're saying that, you're hurt, but yet you're posting party shots with somebody on your back and you're smiling. That's not a good thing.
That's not a good look.
That's not a good look at all.
Okay, so I'm assuming you have Instagram and social media, right?
Yeah, Instagram, I post food and wine.
Food and wine.
Food and wine.
And then on Facebook?
Facebook, I post sayings, things that I find very, very fascinating because I'm very blessed. I have friends in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good way to keep in contact with them and to share information.
So you're using social media simply to keep in touch with people, maybe show some food and wine, but no personal stuff on there.
Not really personal. I mean, if I'm really sensitive about an event, like normally around my birthday, I post something very, very thought-provoking,
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have great friends and I have a lot of good people who I know and I want to keep in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do something sentimental like that.
Right.
But as far as confessions, no, give that to Jesus.
No confession.
He ain't talking.
No, that's good. Okay. So you told me you have a lot of international friends. How did you meet these international friends?
Travel. I mean, like I was telling you, get your passport. If you don't have it, get it. Get it before it gets too difficult to get. I have had more experiences traveling, whether it's the planes, whether it's just going in local neighborhoods of the countries that I'm visiting. Rather than go to Atlanta, get out of the country. It grows. Plus, I'm very curious. I like to go to every place the slave ships stopped from Africa. It's like my first experience in Africa. God, that was back in '99. I had so many cathartic moments, like deja vu, like I've been here before.
Really?
It was so scary.
That's crazy.
It was
What country
so
you were in?
We landed, well, the first time it happened, seriously, we stopped in, I forgot where we stopped. But then we went to Ghana. And I had a lot of those. I've been here before.
Wow.
And I met a lot of people who I'm like, I know your twin.
That's crazy.
And when we were in Dakar, the Goree Island, saw the door no return, man, that was really emotional.
What's that?
That was the last passageway that the native African saw before he got on that boat. And we lost a good 30% of the people over the passage before they even got here.
Wow.
And that's a whole nother conversation about the whole thing about slavery, but it let you really see what racism and colonialism did. And it justified a lot of people who I knew who I didn't know or why they were the way they were. So, and like they were saying how they had rooms all facing each other, one for the children, one for the women, one for the men, and one small room for people who didn't act right. If you were too independent, if you were just too whatever, they put you in that room. And also, let me tell you, they had these bolted rings in the middle of the courtyard. And when I asked why, they said, well, if a woman wasn't compliant with the colonizer, they locked her there for everyone to see until she either died or she acquiesced. That was some powerful stuff. And that room that I told you, the small room, if you went in that room, you didn't come out. And when I asked, well, how do you remove the dead bodies? They said, well, you don't until everybody died.
Dang.
And so I saw the scratches in the wall and all this other stuff, and I saw the little window up there, and people were like yelling, let me out, let me out, let me out. But it really, really put in perspective the generational complacency that many of the people that I've met have. Like a good old friend, she's gone on with the Lord years ago. She was telling me about her dog. And she used to always make the dog stay next to her. Didn't even want the dog to go outside unless she was with her dog. So came upon a time where she had to get the back part of her house retiled. So she had to get the dog outside, and the dog wouldn't go. She broke the dog's spirit. And she just cried. She said, now I know, I have an idea what I did to this dog. The dog just won't go. He's totally dependent on my commands. And if you think and stretch that out, that's kind of powerful. And it's like I see people with kids in grocery stores. You know, those who necessarily don't look like us, of the same hue, kids everywhere, doing everything.
Yep.
But old school parents, stay.
Right.
Don't move.
Get out of that.
Right. And I'm like, wow.
A lot of things start to make sense when you look at how people are raised.
Well, it goes to traveling again. You see a lot. You experience a lot. Again, in Senegal, they have this area where it's basically a kid city. They make homes out of anything they can find. You know, boxes, just bricks, and they're basically just orphan kids. It breaks your heart because you're not talking about just a couple hundred. You're talking a lot of kids.
They call it Kid City.
Oh, well, it's been years, but that's how I.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like you have to survive.
And they're all orphans, or like
Pretty much.
no family?
Pretty much. I mean, your heart just goes out to them. So, I mean, there's poverty everywhere. I mean, from the favelas in Brazil to just a lot of just destitute places.
How did you get this traveling bug? Like, did your mom instill it in you? Like, when did you get your passport? You said 99, right? Was the
I went
first?
through a couple of versions. I'll tell you what, though. Epcot did it for me.
At Disney.
Yeah, Epcot. True story. When I was a little kid, when Epcot opened, I went, and going around those individual worlds really expanded my vision of wanting to travel. So I wanted to do the Canada. I wanted to do a lot of these places. I want to do other things. Because again, you know, once your vision isn't expanded, your perspectives are so limited. Just like for me, it's hard to really listen to someone who hasn't traveled, who isn't well read,
Right.
and who doesn't really entertain other people's perspectives. You know, just because I believe in consensus building. I don't particularly like taking votes where the majority wins. You know, if we're like-minded, if we all say our piece, there should be some commonality amongst all of us where we can come to some form of consensus.
Right.
Because if you believe in humanity, for example, there shouldn't be a winner or a loser. You know, just because there's always hard feelings. Like right now, what we're seeing in our government, people want to win so bad.
They'll do anything.
They'll do anything. Suddenly lies become the truth. And they really rely upon you not being well-read, you not knowing your history, you being impatient, somebody not voting, you know. And it's just amazing, you know, what people are willing to do. And, you know, I see it in my profession all the time.
It seems to me that we've gotten into the idea that the resources are limited, and if there's not enough for everybody, and so I have to win and you have to lose for me to be able to provide for my family. That's kind of the theme I get from the way our economics work, the way maybe even politics, because it doesn't seem like they're forward and thinking like, how can I best serve the country? It's like, how can I get elected this cycle?
Well, I started not to bring this up, but I've had the fortune of having lunch in the U.S. Senate dining room twice. They weren't talking thousands of dollars. They weren't talking about millions. They were talking about a lot more in those rooms. So during that time, whenever I had something strange, I used to always call my mother and ask her, does she love me? And she said, of course I do. What's wrong now? I'm like, nothing's wrong. Just something's different. You know.
Make sure the world ain't in a different universe, right?
I mean, but when you have people who look through you as though you don't exist and you're totally irrelevant, that's powerful. When it happens, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's like now I still have to get dressed to go shopping. You know, I'm still followed. You know, they don't care what kind of education I got. They have a preconceived notion of who they think I am. And if I don't want to go through that, I play the part to some extent.
What do you mean by that? They have a preconceived notion of you.
Oh, people have preconceived notions. I mean, when the last time you were in the elevator and a woman came in with a purse?
Like clutching it?
And clutching it.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, so it's like one time I was in a drugstore. I'm not going to call the name. And I'm in between courts, so I'm in suits and whatever. So this woman asked me where something was. And again, I
Like you
really
worked there?
like I worked there, and I really wasn't having a good day. And I'm like, man, with all due respect, you know I don't work here. Look at my shoes, custom. Look at my suit, custom. They couldn't afford not even to feed me. Look at my big. I'm sorry. Come on, man. Come
Right?
on, man.
What?
But it's. There's always somebody waiting to take you down a peg, even when you are not necessarily at your best. And it just angers me. And it's like, wow. I'm still upset with this election. With the angles of the cameras. That they did. Representative Demings, they painted her as an angry black woman. And every conceivable shot that they can manipulate to buy into stereotypes and fears. That's one of the nicest, competent public servants that I know. But to do something like that and then stand up on a mount of decency, you have none. You have no credibility.
The hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy of it all. But yet people still buy into it until it affects them. And that's the problem. But by the time it affects you, it's normally too late. So just like going with voting, when we were talking, most people don't understand local elections are so important. Public defenders, state attorneys, oh God, they try so hard to put felonies on black men as soon as they can. They normally start trying to put felonies on them 18, and I can attest to some of the investigatory reports that I've read over the years. I've seen people who are of a different hue do much worse pretrial diversions. They get hit with community service, a fine, that a boy, go live your life. But yet I meet more people of color whose lives are ruined because they had a felony from a stupid mistake. One situation calls in question. Back in the day, people used to give out these phones, and if you're 16 or 17, you don't know they're hot. You're just trying to get a discount.
Right.
And they bust a bunch of people for having these phones that they bought at a discounted rate. Because a lot of these people could not afford a lawyer, they were given felonies. Their lives basically were ruined or bootstrapped before they even reached majority for something idiotic as buying a discounted phone that they didn't know it was hot.
And so what's obviously there could be some racial motivations, like, oh, we want to give black people felonies, but what else? Is it furthering their career to get more, or like what is the? I'm
not in their hearts. I just know how some of the system works. But if more people voted, and they got this type of information, asked for it, because if you ask for it, you can get it. Freedom of information. You can do that too through public records in Florida. Get it. If people aren't calling balls and strikes, vote their butts out. I respect public office. Most public servants are very good, hardworking people, but I've seen a few things. Some folk need to go.
See, now I personally, I do agree local elections are important, and I really do. I would like to vote and feel confident in my vote. For me, I didn't do enough research as if I voted, I probably would have voted for Ron DeSantis based off everything that I know, but I also didn't really feel like I wanted to support Ron DeSantis. But I liked how he ran the Florida so far. Like during COVID, my life was great. The only thing, real criticism I've heard of or seen that I was like, I don't know, was his whole like the CRT thing and like how they're trying to like racialize history and take things out.
Well, look, you have a right to vote for whomever you want to vote for. That's the beauty of this system.
Right.
I'm just encouraging people to participate. I mean, I've gotten a few things wrong, normally not, but the more you look at society, and like I've been through city leadership programs. I've been through Leadership Florida. I'm a fan of how do we want this thing to look. Diversity is everybody's coming from their individual corners, and hopefully we're all trying to get to the middle of commonality without losing our own heritage, cultures, perspectives.
Right.
Hopefully, diversity brings us together, we grow. That's the mindset that I have. So even when I'm in heated arguments, I really try to understand another person's opinions. You know, I try to take the emotion out of things, calm them down, and just say, look, before you say something, at least think about it. So I can try to find some common sense or logic in it. You know, just try. I mean, trying to overshout me, one, just a waste of my time because I don't like to argue, especially if I'm not getting paid for it.
I'm about to say, you are a lawyer who don't like to argue.
No, if you pay my hourly rate and the check clears.
You argue.
Oh, we talking. We talk. It's about effect.
Right.
You know, but, you know, voting is very important. Local elections, I just cannot tell you, school boards, you know.
Yeah, school board.
You got to look at it, you know. And it's hard for people who don't have wealth to run for public office because of the demands and the expense of it all.
Right.
It's like the U.S. House of Reps. Every 2 years, they got to run. So they never stop campaigning. They never stop fundraising. But if you have a couple of kids, you got mortgage payments, you have all the other things that other people have, and you have no resources to get those things paid, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Not money. It's the love of money, temptation. You know, don't make me start singing. That's true. Money, money, money. That's a real song. That's a real song. Like, young people got to go back to that old music. It tells you a lot.
It does.
You know, it takes a fool. you know, the Spinners. Oh, I represent the Spinners. Anyway. But, I mean, a lot of that music makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to this one class, and young people, they want to know about all this irrelevant stuff. And, you know, they start talking about, you know, the foolishness, sex, all this stuff. I'm like, you're too young for all of that. I'm convinced until you start paying bills and struggling, it ain't good for you anyway.
Talking about sex.
You gotta stay in school. Stay in school, pay a few more bills.
Right.
It means something for you.
Yeah.
You know, but all the music is so hyper sexualized. I mean, there's certain shows I don't even let my kid watch.
I think that's a good.
There's certain subplots he doesn't need to deal with.
Right.
You know, I'm like, go to the kids channel, and I got to watch some of that.
Seriously.
You know, those games, man, they're killing the zombies and stuff, and I'm like,
it gets gory, and
it's got to get in your psyche somewhere.
Definitely, it's programming.
Yeah, but anyway, going back to the criminal thing, we got to do a better job of protecting our community with sentencing, with the type of crimes that state attorneys and assistant state attorneys are so quickly to try to charge, just because they don't care about, what's that, Michael Jackson? They don't care about us.
Yeah, like Michael Jackson.
You know, and some of the penalties far outweigh the reasonableness of what we should be trying to get to. Like, if someone has a problem, don't put them in jail. Get them help.
Right.
You know, we all can't afford psychologists. We all can't afford a lot of different things. But some of this stuff is systemic. You know, we got to do something. But anyway, what else?
That's good. And I want to. So one action step that you just mentioned is we can be educated about voting. And I would love to have you on for the next election so we can talk about candidates that might be in our best interest, so we can educate not only myself but like other people too.
We can do better than that. We can do some research and bring them here and
I would love to bring
hold them accountable.
I would love that 100%.
Like how many black folk you sentence versus how many white people the same age versus how many Latino people the same age.
Right. Like let's get the stats.
Let's get the numbers.
Yeah, let's get the numbers, because numbers don't lie. Like the record is there for a reason.
Well, I mean, the record says what it says, and it's up to you to interpret it. But you know, again, let's put apples to apples. You know, because our justice system isn't just. Yeah. And it's not fair.
And that's coming from a lawyer. That ain't just me saying it.
No, it can be if everything works well. But again, I respect the bench immensely. A lot of jurors are very competent and they really work hard. Some can't say the same thing.
I've never done jury duty, but
See, it's like, you got to participate.
I mean, I would. I'm signed up. They just don't send me the letter. Like, if they send me the letter, I'll be in there, I guess.
I'll tell you, depending upon what client I have, sometimes they walk in with absolutely no hope until they see a diverse jury pool. And they feel a little better. And there's enough case law out there that talks about lawyers who just try to strike using race. So we have those kind of arguments, but we still have preempts, and again, that goes to another point. Heaven forbid when someone gets in trouble, and you shouldn't get in trouble, but when it happens, you got to have the resources to get competent representation.
Yeah.
And it's harder now just to walk in with one lawyer, because a lot of times you need at least two. Because again, they're coming at you. And again, most law enforcement, most public servants are inherently good, but some, I've seen a few. And you have to investigate, and cross-examine and hold people accountable.
Can you tell the story about that one dude? I think you even said, like, people were on your team. They're like, oh, he reminds me of my son. Like, I love this guy.
Well, I was on a board.
Yeah.
And I was chairing a hearing. And one young man walked in, impressive-looking white male. And I had two white male members on the side of me, and they led off with questioning. And basically, the only conduct was somebody cheated, one or both. So, and the person was answering their questions and all the lighthearted responses, et cetera, and, and some just ain't right.
Right.
But, one leaned over and said, oh, he reminds me of my son. Interesting. So, and I was getting ready to close the hearing. And again, I'm not, other than the fact that I'm conducting the hearing. And I'm like, before I close the hearing, let me explain to you what's going on. Somebody did something, and you're under oath. And before I close this hearing, I'm going to give you one last time to tell the truth. So it was like the demon was coming out and started shaking. Oh, I can't take it anymore. I lied. It was both of us. So I'm listening to all this, and, I'm always polite. And after the hearing concluded, the oldest person on the committee, said, how did you know? And I'm like, I don't give the benefit of the doubt based upon color. I was listening, and something wasn't right. And I don't get passes just because someone doesn't look like me. So,
that's deep. Yeah, that's deep. I mean, I think I like that story because it shows a certain kind of bias, or you could say,
well, we all have biases. It's like, for example, serving. It's helpful if you're on these committees, just because people and things are discussed.
Right.
And if there's no diversity in the room, and if there is diversity and the persons aren't willing to open their mouths and speak truth to power, you still have injustices. Because I've corrected a whole lot of people because I was in that room. And I was happy I was in that room. Matter of fact, the people who I helped was happy I was in that room, because you force people to be accountable and to call balls and strikes. So, also another thing I will tell you about. I mean, Camp Lejeune cases. You hear all the advertisements and all this other stuff like that.
Who?
If you were at this camp and the military base and all those commercials and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen those.
We need to be very, very careful about those type of campaigns, just because, there are two major types of big type cases. There are class actions, and then there are multi-jurisdictional type cases, of which this is one. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff happens to happen to people who look like us. You can start hearing a lot about female hair products for hair straightening, it causes certain types of cancers to women. And they're marketing that just like the Camp Lejeune stuff. And they're asking you to call these lawyers, and they're spending millions of dollars just advertising.
You might be entitled to a settlement, like those ones.
All that stuff. You know, class actions, basically, if you go through and get in the class, you know, the judge sets the attorney's fee for the lawyers. Then whatever's left over, everybody in the class just gets an equal allotment unless you are the named plaintiff or whatever. But the multi-jurisdictional stuff, you know, you got to read the fine print. Some of these lawyers are asking for a lot of money, percentage-wise, and it's from your recovery, and it's not always equitable. And sometimes people run to people because they don't trust folk who look like them, which I personally have a problem with, because over my years of practice, I've had to clean up a lot of stuff. I've been asked to clean up a lot of stuff because they ran to the wrong lawyer for the wrong reasons. And when all the money or most of the money was gone and they're feeling mistreated, they come to me.
Now they come to you.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't undo what you allowed to have happen. I can try to clean some of it up, but I can't reinvent the wheel.
So in regards to those multi-jurisdictional ones, what would you recommend instead? Because, you know, people are seeing that commercial like, oh, okay, I guess I'll participate.
If you don't know a lawyer, you can always call me, ReggieHicksLaw.com.
Yeah, hit them up.
Or ask someone if someone they trust. You know, I'm old school. A lot of my clients I've had for years. And I realize that although I'm a great lawyer, depending upon what the situation is, let me be your legal quarterback. Let me find the best person to help you. It doesn't cost you anything extra, you know, but I'm now quarterbacking for you to make sure you're getting your optimal recovery.
Because you got the inside information.
I just know a lot.
You know a lot.
You know, it's like personal injury cases. I mean, you got a lot of folk with the signs on the buses going through neighborhoods of the poor and of color. You know, that's in and of itself a hustle. You know, because for me, if you're hurt, God forbid, I want you to get the best care to get well. You know, a lot of people are in it for the hustle. I understand that too, but some people are legitimately hurt. And I don't care what you say. If you are in pain, I don't care how much money they give you. Money does not make pain go away.
Nope.
So I want to maximize your care and your treatment, okay? And then I want to put the best resources around you to make sure you get adequately compensated.
I like that.
What the game is, you get hit, you don't have the right type of insurance to protect yourself. You call somebody who has a catchy, appropriated song using our culture, our music, and you call that catchy number. They refer you to not your doctors, but doctors they have relationships with. You sign documents that they call letters of protection, where you have to guarantee to pay the doctors before you get paid. So the lawyer gets paid, the doctors get paid, you get whatever's left over. You know, and then if you don't stay on top of it, you go over your PIP amount. That's normally $10,000. And you get all this over treatment. And then when you get a settlement, they have to negotiate down all the medical bills that you agreed to pay. So you gave up your leverage. And you get a nominal amount when the lawyer and the doctor making most of the money. You're still in pain, assuming that you are in pain, you know, and you have a bad experience. And you come to someone like me to look over what has happened to you.
So that's why
that's
why people have like a negative connotation of lawyers, because of those kinds of experiences.
I know you love lawyers when you need them. You know, so I can think of other professions that I wouldn't want to deal with.
Right.
You know, but if you need them, you need them.
That's true. You know, I actually was a benefactor of a class action lawsuit. When I was in college, I applied to work at a place called the Milkshake Factory. It's an actual ice cream.
That could go so many ways.
That could go so many different ways.
So many ways.
It was it was an ice cream shop. You get milkshakes like, you know, normal. Anyway, so I didn't get the job. I didn't get the call back, whatever. I wasn't really that pressed about it. But a few months later, I got a letter in the mail saying, Milkshake Factory is being sued for racial discrimination. If you apply to work here from this date to that date, you may be entitled to compensation. So, I'm oh yeah, cool, I did that. So I filled it out, whatever. A couple months later, I get a check in the mail, like $3,000. Like, hey, there you go. Like, we got them. And here's your check.
You break another point.
What do you do with the money? No.
Didn't Milkshake give you a clue?
Right. Yo, don't expose me.
I think there's a song about that.
Yo.
I mean, it's not my generation. Give me Gladys Knight or Aretha. But, there's a song out there. There's a song out there. But no, you bring up a good point because I get my share of calls now, even more so, racial discrimination cases. One, on principle, if you don't vote, I don't take your case. If you've never voted, don't come to me for...
I voted before, so you still take my case, right?
Well, I'll consider it now because you voted.
Before, yeah, I got a record.
I advise people in the seminars that I teach, et cetera, look, life is not fair. If you work for a governmental entity or a corporation, the day that you're hired, keep your personal file. Document. People you work with aren't your friends. Everything that's said, if you see a memo, if someone said something to you, document. Because more likely than not, 5-10 years down the line, if it goes that far, something strange may happen that you cannot explain. You have to stay aware because I don't care what you say, whether you're Gen X, Z, or whatever, racism is still real. Even justice, some of that's covered. You got to document. You have to protect yourself. Hopefully it never happens to you. But if it does, you have a file and you have files.
So when you say document, just for people who don't know, it's like write it down, keep it in a folder, like screenshots, receipts, any kind of interactions you're having.
That new stuff, yeah.
Yeah. People don't,
kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It took me a while to learn how to screenshot.
But people these days, yeah, like you get a racist memo or somebody, saying something kind of crazy in your LinkedIn chat or Slack, just screenshot it.
Start a diary of what Rick, Betty, Sue, whomever said to you, what they said, date, time, place, who heard it. If someone sends you a text, screenshot it. I would recommend you keep it on their system.
Right.
But
delete that.
But I would definitely save it to something. And if it's a memo or whatever, make a reference to it. Because I can't tell how many cases that I've had where I produced a memo that the employer didn't.
Like they didn't know about it.
They knew about it. They just destroyed the document.
Oh, so saying you because someone saved it off of the not on the system, so they already had it.
Actually, this person, common courtesy. Great point. Common courtesy pays off. A cleaning lady gave him a copy of the document that was thrown in the garbage.
Wow.
That was racial proof that something was going on.
That's crazy.
And had he not spoke to this woman, she would not have
hooked them up.
And when I produced that, they didn't have it in their files, and they should have. He got paid.
What did the judge be saying? Because I know it's like some official stuff. What they be saying? Like,
first of all, that kind of stuff ain't getting to a judge.
Oh,
I mean, if you know you're gonna lose.
Oh yeah, they just settle.
Because give me something like that, I'll be preaching. I'm like, get me to a jury. I'm like,
just boy, I love that. Turned to a Southern Baptist preacher now.
Yes. I had the pleasure of seeing Johnny Cochran sue Disney. And
when you say you saw it, what does that mean?
I was sitting there.
You were there.
Yeah. So
wait. How did you get in the?
You can walk in the courtroom.
Wow. So you just walked in.
Yeah, some people think I'm not chopped liver sometimes. But it's how they let you know how much money from the outset they're gonna be asking for. And if you got a problem with that, there may be grounds for them not to put you on the jury. They just put you in that stratosphere, And when you're prepared, prayed up, and you're confident, that goes a long way. And you're looking good.
Gotta be sharp.
You know, it goes a long way, and they prevail. I mean, I learned a lot from watching other lawyers. You know, it's just one of those things. You know, you have to grow your craft and know your craft. So, you know, just one of those situations. But, you know, again, the practice of law shouldn't be a mystery. But people keep preying on our communities and not putting sufficient resources back in our communities. And I don't give a hoot how many turkeys you buy, or how many nominal things you pay for, or how many concerts you help underwrite. You know, there's certain things that should be put in our communities. Like every community should have a help center, you know, that people who benefit from the community donate to. So that if we have a problem, we can go and get an honest answer of what we need without going to a governmental entity. You know, it's just resources in our community to help people. You know, I can't tell you how many people have called me and asked me to read something, or asked me for an opinion, or catch me at church. You know, I've been blessed at church more after giving advice versus people coming to my office and paying me. You know, I'm like, at least bring me a piece of cake or something. you catch me when I'm getting to my car. You know,
they want it for free.
I had one church member call me some years ago and said, "I'll just catch you at church. You know, I don't want to pay you a consultation. I'll just catch you at church."
Like, wait a minute.
I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta eat. You know, it's like, you know,
okay.
From time to time, if I'm out and about, you know, I offer to buy a cocktail here and there. So one particular person, I knew I bought at least two drinks in their lifetime. I was at a law firm who didn't look like me, and they sitting up there, they gave the money to that firm. And I'm like, wait a minute, you drank them drinks, you know, said thank you. And I didn't get a call when you got hurt? I'm like, that hurt my heart.
That is crazy.
That's the last. Well, I normally do things from the heart, but let's just say my heart didn't lead me to buy them another drink. You know, so, you know, it's just one of those things that people forget. Marketing. It's like a lot of these professional politicians. You know, they beg for money to be reelected, What have they really delivered to the community? I mean, I've asked, how many new businesses did you help create? Did you help with wealth? You know, people have to have the money from someplace. You know, so if you didn't hook up business opportunities or networking opportunities, why should I give you my hard-earned money? Because I'm still starving. You know, and historically, they're on these committees and whatever. They know where growth is in our communities. They know where the money is. So, but they hook up their friends and their family. Nobody else. So the west side of town, across the railroad tracks, still look the same. They still use crime and code enforcement to frustrate black-owned businesses. Black-owned businesses, not the white-owned businesses. You know what I'm saying? But you cross over that track, you don't have that problem.
Ain't nobody enforcing the code violations and all that.
And so suddenly we get frustrated, we leave, and then suddenly the cities or the counties get the property, and suddenly you got major development going because they use the land that they got through code enforcement as in-kind development contributions.
You know, we're actually experiencing something similar in Little Haiti right now. So they had a developer come in, I think it was Magic City. They came in basically saying, oh, we got all these plans, whoop-de-woo. And so they had to invest a portion of the money, something like $20 million, maybe a little bit more than that. And then they have a board, you know, the board of Little Haiti, like basically to disseminate it. But there had been so much going on with, I think this started in 2020, but like they didn't have like enough meetings or they didn't have enough board members. Long story short is the people that the money was intended to help, they've already been like leaving. So now it's like we're still playing catch up on resources that were left for people that are gone, and they still haven't come up with a good way to service the community. And I'm going to meetings now where they don't even know how to get the word out to people. They're like, well, we don't have they don't have a Haitian or Creole speaking person to translate the meeting. So are you really trying to reach out to the community?
Well, the problem may be more difficult than that and more egregious than that if you go back further. You know, most counties have comprehensive plans where they have to forecast their growth. And if you go back years ago, you knew where the hospitals were going, the roads were going, et cetera, et cetera. And those persons who served then rolled off and suddenly became developers, suddenly became X, Y, or Z. And then suddenly, 15, 20 years down the line.
Now it's all happening.
And they rich.
Right.
You know, because they knew where everything was going. Fascinating.
That's that insider baseball right there. Fascinating. Utterly fascinating. Let's talk about this book that you handed me and my partner Justin, because it's called Seasons. I didn't know you were a novelist too.
I'm black.
So you,
a lot of things.
I mean, you can do anything.
I can cook too. Clean. I just don't like it. You know?
Right.
My mama taught me how to do everything.
Talk to me
like doing it.
Talk to me about this book and what inspired you to write it.
Well, first, what is it about?
It's about, well, the underlying theory of the book is people go through 3 seasons of life. And you have 6 characters, all with different personality types, going into the 2nd season. That means things are beginning to happen. Their bodies are changing. Just real life things are happening. And they decide to come together and bring all their problems and dramas together. So a good friend of mine encouraged me to start writing, because he said, look, you read for work, you read for, politics or whatever. You need to reduce your stress level. Start to recreationally write. So I started doing it, because I'm a big reader of a lot of different things. But started writing, and it got good to me. Because another friend said, you're going to be putting it down, picking it back up. So figure out a way to get in it and get out easily.
Yeah.
So don't make it overly complicated. Don't overly think it. So it was a fun write. So
nice.
Between COVID and a bunch of different other things, my mind has just not been in the place to be creative. But now I'm at a point where, I've gone through a few storms and I'm just at peace with a few things.
Nice.
So my creative thing is going. That's why I decided, I used to do a lot of public speaking at schools and different things like that. But then that got time consuming and I got frustrated because I wasn't seeing change. I was put as an entertaining educational speaker.
But nobody was doing, nothing was coming from it.
I really didn't see it. It's like, teachers were sitting back there looking and laughing.
Right.
Because I was teaching college economics to middle school and high school kids. You know? So, I walk in and say, okay, we have 1 million pair of white underwear that we got on the cheap. How are we going to run a hustle and sell these things? I put some money on the table and not a kid's.
Now they're looking, And
then I explained to them what I said, the underwear is supply. I'm asking you to come up with ideas.
To generate demand.
That's demand. And then we talk about marketing and competition. And I said, look, in the streets, competition is normally murders and the violent stuff because they're competing interests. We don't want you to go that way. And if they're really hardcore, years ago I was in the catacombs in Paris and I took pictures of just rows and rows of bones. So I used to pass them out and said, unfortunately, no matter how much you love life, you only have a finite time here. What you gonna do? I used to whisper behind their ears. When they look at the body,
the drama.
Yeah, what you gonna do? Everybody, all these bones had flesh to them at one point.
They had dreams, aspirations.
Yeah, just like y'all up in here. What you gonna do? How you gonna live your life? And then once that get them, and I start with the whole underwear thing and then the money thing, and I normally get the worst kids in the class, at least from what the teachers have told me, and I put them in charge of the corporation. And I'm like, if y'all win, y'all split this money, but you got to pick your class members. Whose kids or what type of kids a lot of those supposedly bad kids pick?
Who they picking?
The smartest ones in the class.
They know who to pick.
They know. And I told the teacher, see, you just got to teach them differently. These kids aren't stupid. They just need to be motivated.
And I think that's one thing I ran into when I was in the classroom is I didn't have a way to teach the certain kids that needed to be taught in a certain way because it was time commitments. Oh, you got 40 minutes. You got to do these standards and from this textbook, and you got to make sure you're da da da. But it's like the kids don't all learn that way. Most of them didn't learn that way.
The sad thing about it, it's like me. I do math and my memory. I make songs like spelling. I'll make the word from a song. Because even now, kids remember lyrics like that.
Yeah.
So why don't you spell making up your own song? You know, it's a lot of times when I was doing standardized tests, you see my head moving. You know, one, it's forcing me to keep my butt in that chair, but I am recalling something through a tune that I made up versus I'm using whatever subject matter I had to retain because music flows through a lot of us.
Ingenious.
It's just how we learn.
It's how we work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I hate the sound of pencil. Hate it. So I normally write with a pen. My math with a pen. And with math, there's always more than one way to get to an answer.
Right.
You just got to figure out the back way. You know? So if you're blessed, I have great teachers. If you're blessed with decent teachers that help you learn differently, you know, you learn extremely well. I remember I used to hate accounting, but one summer I had this fine woman. Ooh, Lord Jesus, that woman was fine. Ooh, I got a B plus.
And then you're like, wait a minute, accounting ain't so bad.
I got a B plus. I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I don't understand. Then she was around with that clone. I can learn now.
I need some more help.
Kids are a little motivated.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I was happy to see, you know, male teachers when I was young. I mean, like, I'm older, so I started school in segregated schools.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had to hold up signs for the privilege to go to school with white people.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I'm blessed I know I look good and all, but
You do look good. I'm going to say, we're going to have to save that for another podcast because we're actually it's almost 4:00, so I definitely want to respect your time. But I appreciate you coming on. So before we get into like where we can find you at, you said, you know, you were doing those in-person speakings. It sounded like you were transitioning into something else that you had going on.
well, I'm reinventing myself. So it's like, what's the best use of my time?
Yeah.
You know, there's certain things I really, really want to do, and I have some international interest. There's a lot of companies internationally that would have the benefit of, like, remember I told you about the mediations and the arbitrations? I would love to explore more international arbitrations, you know, because as an arbitrator as well as a mediator, I have to be fair.
Right.
You know, all sides are respected and all sides should have equal footing in terms of making their own decisions. We call it self-determination.
Self-determination.
So with some foreign companies to have a American arbitrator that's sensitive to making sure that both entities can make informed decisions, I think that's a benefit.
Awesome.
So I'm looking at doing more of that. So
dope. And I hope you'll come on the show some more. We can chop it up about the things you're doing, international law. I honestly, next time you come on, I want to talk about reparations. Like, can we actually make a case to get reparations?
You need to ask the right people. It all depends on who you listen to. I mean, apparently for what we were doing for, or what we're still doing for Ukraine, they got money for that.
That's crazy too, right?
Well, I mean, hey, everybody needs help now. Don't get me wrong.
Hey, yeah, fair enough.
But had we had the resources that people were given to open up the Midwest and the West, you know, I could be growing weed there too.
Right. You're right.
Like, you know,
the marijuana industry, we could all be taking advantage because we had the farmland, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But just that's my disclaimer.
Well,
that's my disclaimer. I'm not giving any legal advice. I'm not giving any legal advice today. My job is to explain, to talk about access, to encourage people to use the system.
Just educate and inspire.
And to be more vigilant and aware while they're using the system. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this. It's part of my community service stick, but I prefer to call it like I see it.
And where can people find you, Mr. Hicks?
Reginald Hicks law.com. That's the easiest way to do it. That's my updated website. And if you allow me, I would love to sit in on topics and ask some kind of relevant questions, pose some hypotheticals.
Yeah.
And I would like to start holding people accountable.
Me too.
You know,
I honestly,
when they try to come for our dollars, come for our votes, you know,
we need something to show for it.
I've just seen a few things. I can ask a few questions. You know,
I love that. And I feel like this is like an intergenerational team up right now. We got to give this is like a, you know, in Predator when they,
I can't relate to that.
You know Predator when Arnold Schwarzenegger and Billy, I forgot who it was. They dap up real. You know what I'm saying?
Now, see, I don't know. Okay, dap up. I think that's
we dapping. Yeah.
What about that?
Oh, okay, fine.
Okay, thank you. Have you had your shot?
No, I haven't.
See, that's cold. We got to talk about that.
We
get
don't
vaccinated, man. Get vaccinated. Look, I'm all vaccinated up because I can't trust everybody I'm around now.
I mean, that's fair.
You know, I eat pork.
I don't eat no pork.
Well, I eat pork, so I got to be vaccinated. You know, I like my pork.
That's true.
You know, if the right person call me about some chitlins, I'm listening.
Really?
I may not go in to have them, but if I can trust your cooking, I can appreciate some pig.
Like I said, we have the generational team up right now. Intergenerational. Mr. Hicks, I appreciate you. I feel like they're about to kick us out soon, but we just got to take this picture real quick. How'd you like it?
Oh, yeah, you're very conversational. I can, hopefully I haven't gotten myself in trouble. You're lucky I haven't had that drink for brunch. I really would have been free.
No, I don't think